because I'm a children's ministry director and I'm used to speaking to very small people who, you know, just think I'm fabulous.
Amen to that.
Right? And I grew up as a pastor's daughter, so I'm really not used to being like in front of everyone, just having them watch me. Will you just pray with me really quick? Oh Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. You, O Lord, our strength and our redeemer. Amen. So, I might move around a little. I'm supposed to stay back here. Damon DeLillo is the Chief Creative Officer, and I love the name of this ministry, of 10 Cal Ministries and Next Gen Ministry, which are dedicated to helping churches become more effective at reaching the next generation and their families. He says, there is a season in a person's life when they are most open to learning what it means to trust God. It's a season sometime between 4 and 14, when people are more moldable than they will ever be in their lifetime, when people are forming relationships and their understanding of the world, of love, of God. It's a season when they are impressionable, and we should be intentional about making sure that they get the right impression. Nearly 80% of people in our churches today decided to follow Jesus before the age of 18. I bet if I asked you to raise your hands and asked you how many of you decided before the age of 18, we would probably be pretty close to that statistic. 50% of them decided to follow Jesus before the age of 12. In fact, it becomes exponentially rarer and exponentially harder for a person to decide to follow Christ after the age of 18. That statistic is why I am so passionate about my job in children's ministry. As the daughter of a Methodist minister, I don't ever remember a time when I didn't go to church. It was just not really an option. You had to either be throwing up or have a really high fever. And there were times, mostly when I was a teenager, that I really just wanted to sleep on Sunday morning. But now I know that I was so, so blessed to have parents who sometimes drove me to church every Sunday and made sure that there was a community of faith who made sure that I knew that Jesus loved me and that that community of faith loved me. There are so many children, too many children in our world today that do not have that luxury. I never planned to be in ministry. In fact, watching my dad serve in full-time ministry made me not ever want to do it. I was sure I did not want to do it, and I didn't want to marry a pastor. I went to college to be an elementary school teacher, and I loved that job for 9 years until I got my favorite job, and you probably won't be able to see this, as the mom of Lucas and Amelia. Those are my babies. They're 4 and 5. I tell them all the time that my favorite job is being their mom. While I was pregnant with Lucas, I was teaching kindergarten at a charter school up in North Las Vegas, and I began praying for a way to be able to contribute to our income but not have to leave my baby for 10 hours a day. After he was born in October of 2010, I began to panic because I really didn't want to leave my baby, and I still needed to figure out a way to pay the bills because my husband was kind of freaking out about that. So January rolled around, and I tearfully left my little boy crying all 45 minutes all the way to the charter school. And I taught my little kindergartners, and I just continued to pray, knowing that God had a plan. And so in March of that year, a friend sent me a picture of an advertisement in the bulletin from Green Valley United Methodist Church. And it said they were looking for a children's ministry director. I really had no idea what that meant. So I emailed the associate pastor and I said, what are the qualifications for that, and could I maybe interview? So during the interview, I asked her how much that would pay, because my husband, the math teacher, had worked out to the penny, literally to the penny, how much money I had to make to be able to stay home. And when their answer matched his answer, I said, you should just hire me today. because God made that job for me, and then they made me wait a whole week. I knew that was my job. 5 years later, I'm still sure that God created that job for me at exactly the right time. Not only have I been able to be available to my kids, but I've had the privilege of teaching countless other kids about Jesus every week. Our goal every Sunday at Green Valley is for kids to know that they are loved and treasured by Jesus and by our church family. We have a Wednesday night program called Pioneer Club, and it's advertised on our website, and you can register online. So last year we had a family with 5 kids sign up for it, and I got the registration and looked at it and went, I don't know these children. I've never heard of this family, but okay. And so they'd never been to our church, and they came because they were looking for a church that had a midweek program for kids. So the kids started coming on Wednesday nights, and they had the best time. Pioneer Club is sort of, it's a Bible-based program, and it has some like Girl Scout or Boy Scout elements, so you can earn badges, and they do activities, and there's lots of Bible memory, but there's games and all kinds of other things. So it's a very fun way for kids to interact with each other and also form relationships with adults. The kids soon started to beg their parents to come on Sunday mornings because they knew if Wednesday was that fun, Sunday must be even better. So now we see them almost every week, and their parents volunteer regularly on Wednesday nights. They've started to connect with other young families, and it just reminds me that the prophet Isaiah said, a little child shall lead them, because their kids are the ones who brought them. And most of the time that's what we see. When we're reaching the children, their parents are soon to follow. A lot of times these are adults who wouldn't think of stepping into a sanctuary, but if you tell them that their child is going to read scripture for Pioneer Club Sunday or Christmas Eve, or that they're going to receive a badge or an award, they'll show up. And then you have that chance to show the parents how much that Jesus loves them just as much as he loves their kids, and just as much as you love their kids. Many of our kids from Sunday mornings go home and they talk to their parents about what they learned in Sunday school, or they talk to them about our fabulous Sunday school teachers. And so then we do have fabulous Sunday school teachers. I'm not talking about myself. We have a great team. And so I'll have parents who will come and say, my daughter was talking about Miss Susie. Could I meet her? And I say, yes, absolutely. You can. And they'll come down and chat with her, and then gradually we'll see them make their way into service, and then it's kind of one of those things where the kids sort of pull their parents along. We have another family who started coming on Wednesday nights, and then we started to see them on Sunday mornings. And just a few months ago, the whole family, mom, dad, and 2 little girls, were baptized all on Sunday morning. It was the best Sunday morning we've had in a long time. It was beautiful to watch that whole family get baptized together. The mom of that family has volunteered for Vacation Bible School, and she's going to serve our church in a way. We have in a grief group that we're going to start for children, because she lost a parent when she was a child. I don't see my job as just children's ministry. I often end up ministering to entire families. I'm not a pastor. I have not been to seminary, but I sort of end up being a pastor because I hear about illnesses in families, or a divorce, or a death, because little children like to talk to me. And or they'll come to church and they're not themselves, and so I'll say, why are you look a little sad. Can we sit down and talk for a few minutes? And we'll sit down and talk. Sometimes I have to distract them with, cookies, candy, things like that, a donut. Yeah, sometimes we have to go and check out the snack table. You would be amazed at the things I hear about over a bag of Skittles. Or Starburst. They love those too. I make that time. I sit with them. I pray with them. I talk to them. Sometimes just letting them know that someone cares and that there's an adult who has the time to sit down and talk to them is the best thing I can do on a Sunday morning. I I recently read this fantastic book that I would recommend to every Methodist. It's called 7 Things John Wesley Expected Us to Do for Kids. And Christopher Miles Ritter, who is a pastor as well, he's a clergy in the Great Illinois River Conference, which is where my father-in-law is from. He said, and I don't know, does everyone know who John Wesley is? John Wesley is the co-founder of Methodism. So John Wesley, back in the 1700s, expected us to minister to kids. And I think it's kind of amazing that 300 years later, we're still expected to do that. One of my favorite quotes from this book was, "You don't have to be a spiritual giant to help a child spiritually. You do have to know the child and be willing to speak the language of their heart when the opportunity arises." And that's one of the things I've learned the most about kids and my job is if I get down on their level and just talk to them about their day, about school, then that is when the most authentic faith formation happens, because they know that you really care. And kids are the best judges of character. So be alert for children in your life who need you to speak that language. Even just out in the community, you can be that person for a child. This spring we had a family with 6 kids lose their dad unexpectedly. And the next month, 2 boys in our church lost their mom. So we had 8 kids who had lost a parent within 2 months. My whole children's ministry team attended both those memorial services. They baked cookies, they prayed, they hugged those kids every time they saw them, and they ministered to the rest of the family. And that, my friends, is the church showing up and being the church for those kids and for those families. I don't know how much of that experience those kids are really going to remember. There are some of them who they ranged in ages from 14 all the way down to a year old. But I hope that when they look back on it, at least the ones who are old enough, that they say to themselves, God's people loved us through that time, and God's people got us through that time. I met the oldest boy of that family of 6 kids at Camp Potosi, one of my favorite places, also where I met my husband. I was a dean for elementary summer camp. He was probably the most angry 8-year-old I've ever met, and he pretty much hated everything about camp, so that was fun. I didn't know a lot of his story, but I knew that he needed to know that God loved him and that God had a plan for him. So I just started praying for him at camp. And then when I started working at Green Valley, I ran into him again. And he was one of those kids, and you know these kids, especially my teacher friends, you know these kids. He's one of those kids who, when you see him coming, you kind of go, oh, no, I don't know if I have the energy for that today. And I had plenty of those as a teacher for 9 years. And the kids you prayed that would be absent maybe just one day, but their parents always sent them to school. That was this little boy. And he was the one who people would say, oh, maybe they won't be here today. And then they would show up, and you're like, oh, okay. But my husband and I, who were both teachers by trade, we knew that he just needed somebody to listen, somebody to smile at him, somebody to be that extra grace, that extra patience for him. So we continued to be that. And whether he knew it or not, he started to seek us out. He would come and find us on Sunday morning. He would come and find us on Wednesday night. He would just sort of come and sit in my office and be like, good morning, Miss Karin. And I would be like, hey, how's it going? We would just chat. And he has now become one of my absolute favorite youth. He's about to be a freshman in high school, and he is an amazing kid. He is amazing. He's fantastic with our kids when he comes and volunteers for Vacation Bible School. He leads them, and they to follow him like little ducklings. That's fantastic. All my little boys just think he's, the best thing. He participates in our youth musicals. He He is just this amazing kid who you didn't think that little angry 8-year-old would turn out to be this kid who just has started to be a shining star in our church. He still has his moments. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But when he needs a little guidance or a little correction, you can say it to him, and he's not nearly as angry or as disrespectful as he would have been as an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. And I really believe in my whole heart that knowing that he has people who love him, people who pray for him, people who believe in him, has been the thing that brought him to that place. I believe in my heart that God has great plans for him, and I'm excited to watch those plans unfold. I still pray for him every day. I pray for all of my kids at Green Valley every day. So in this book, this is the best example that I have of that. In this book, Christopher Miles Ritter said, children need an advocate. They need an adult who is seeking their good. Sometimes this involves defending them, sometimes providing for them, sometimes it's simply expecting the best for them and from them. And that boy was one of those boys who people didn't really expect the best from him. People just expected him to be that angry boy who would always get in trouble. And I chose, and I still choose every day, to expect the best from him. And when you do that with kids, they will rise to that occasion. Children's ministry is the most exhausting, sometimes frustrating, most fulfilling, amazing work of the church. The whole congregation is needed if we're going to do it well and if we're going to continue to improve. The most authentic children's ministry, though, is a lifestyle, not a program. It's not Vacation Bible School. It's not Pioneer Club. It's your church, your congregation, everyone deciding that you are going to commit to children, that you are going to be a congregation who loves children and who welcomes children. And it takes everybody to do it. Everybody has to buy in. You may not see the fruit of your labor with kids for years and years. Just like my girls, it's taken them a long time. But God sees. He sees the time you spend. He hears the prayers that you pray. And he knows that you're making an eternal difference in the lives of those children. I don't agree that children are the church of tomorrow. I believe they're the church of today. I want to leave you with one more thought from David DeLillo. What is rooted in the heart of a child is almost impossible to uproot in the life of an adult.